was thinking this is actually sort of the inspiration for that photo. If, I don't know. But in any case, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Assalamualaikum. So my organization is Nuqta Arts. It's an art initiative that I established back in June of last year. Let me get there a little quicker. And what Nuqta Arts is it's a mobile art initiative. It goes around the DMV area, and I teach classes at different community centers, schools, NGOs, just anyone who really needs sort of this kind of education or training. And what I teach, it's grown over time. It started with with water marbling. My wife and I had gone out to Turkey and taken some classes out there, and I wanted to bring it back here. I thought it was a wonderful artistic method. And it had been done in American culture for a long time, actually with bookbinding. Water marbling had been a big part of that for a while. They'd used it before illustrations, before we could really do the fantastic books that we have now with the art. And from there, it expanded. I started touching on trying to do other Islamic arts as well. And at this point, with the classes I do, I go through all of these. I do Arabesk design, geometric design, granite tiles, latchhook rugs. You all can read the rest, but it's grown well, alhamdulillah, I'm happy with it. The inspiration for it, I had been studying Arabic calligraphy back in 2009. I actually been an artist in high school, but when I became Muslim, I sort of cut back on doing art. So doing calligraphy was nice for me to actually get back into doing art. And what I got into in my art before I was Muslim, I was very abstract, and it was just really line work, black and white, and there wasn't really meaning in it. So when I started seeing calligraphy and I saw the same lines, but there was so much meaning within the lines, that really connected with me to a high degree. Then also I've been volunteering. If you've all been to or you've heard of America's Islamic Heritage Museum, I was there helping doing programs and whatnot, and it really helped me reflect on sort of America's Islamic heritage. And I'd been going through books, reading the different materials that were in there. And I started thinking that sort of what we as a community lacked was the visual presence, a good art movement, something that would allow us to sort of share sort of our internal sentiment of Islam with the broader community. And I feel that that's sort of, it could really be built upon. And then also and in doing that, I started reviewing other communities, what they had done in the past as well, like looking at the Harlem Renaissance, looking at the murals of Diego Rivera, and just sort of thinking what we could do that would be similar. And then I think it was a PBS program, and it was on a Japanese-American artist. His name was Roger Shimoa, and his artwork was just very fascinating to me, because he really just turned a lot of images up on their head, and he's actually Washington in this painting. And I just thought it was really great how he infused his own Japanese sensibilities, his traditions, ancestry artwork into American artwork, and created something new that people were really enjoying. So I sort of wanted to try and see if that was possible with American Muslim art. So one thing that really impressed me with calligraphy is the measurement. When you are forming the letters, it's very precise, and the Nuqta is actually a very important part. And that's why with the logo, everything revolves around the Nuqta. This is actually, the white space is the Nuqta. So, and if I had written the words on it, it would have just said clearly Nuqta on the white part and arts on the other part. But so in doing calligraphy, you can see, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, like you can see how everything is spaced out. And this is Diwani script, so the alif is about 5 nuqtas high. And I saw the Nuqta, it's a form of measurement. It's how these scripts were created over time, very precise. And I thought sort of our most basic unit of measurement in the art tradition of the Islamic community is the Nuqta. And I sort of started thinking of the Nuqta as a metaphor for methods that could be used to create art. Like what would be a Nuqta, a method that you could build off of? Al Jazeera had a nice documentary on a thinker back from the 70s, and he said I forgot the phrase. The method is the communication, the medium is the message. There we go. So creating sort of a method that could, regardless of the context within it, but it would carry the message of the Islamic art. That would sort of my mind's all over the place with this art, so it's hard to express some things. But in the same way that Nuqtas are used to measure calligraphy, I wanted to sort of build up a strong American Islamic art tradition within our community by teaching basic arts to kids, students, all ages, just so that they could have the basic methods to build off of. And one important thing about the Nuqta, it's a very simple structure. I mean, it's a little rectangle, but off of that, I mean, huge, incredible artworks were created that, you know, touch the heart and do a lot. So really focusing on Islamic art as a small unit that could be put together into a larger whole. And even as people, I mean, there's, I don't know if this is Sufi stuff or not, but a Nuqta, when properly formed, if a person is properly formed, is just a good khalq, like putting them together, it'll create a nice whole. Like if we all, you know, work on ourselves, we can start making some similar beautiful patterns to what's seen in Islamic artwork. So I started seeing a lot of metaphors within this. I want to give some examples. You can see this. These are makarnas from Iran, and you can see it looks very complex just at first glance. But if you go and you start looking, just what's the smallest unit? What is this all built off of? It can help us break it down and make it a lot more simple. So it's not coming up right now. This is actually the smallest unit. Depending on how this shape is formed, it'll actually change the whole makarna system. So this is the Nuqta of makarnas. And you can see with the next slide, all of these, if you go, I mean, you can see how the little shape, it's built in, and then just depending on the volume or however else it's built around it, it'll make the little pieces, and all of these fit together to make the larger whole. So that's one thing that I try and explain in the classes. I actually haven't done a proper makarna class like this yet, but so to help, I hope this looks a little less complex now. You can at least see what the root idea of it is, and it makes more sense. It's not just this huge whole, and I think that's how a lot of us might look at Islamic art, just this incomprehensible mess of shapes and lines, and how would you even create that? So that's one of the purposes. And here I have a video. This also explains these are Gire tiles. It was a complex method to create, or a simple method to create complex shapes. Hopefully if the video plays, you can see. Not sure. Okay. Well, in any case, Gire tiles, this method had been used in Turkey, Iran, all across the Muslim world. And it wasn't until about 2007 when a Princeton scholar and a Harvard scholar, they started going to Central Asia, and they started reviewing this and how these quasi-crystal shapes, if you were to take a 3D pattern and to compress it so it looks like a crystalline structure but it's compressed, how you could actually fabricate this. And they started noticing these Gire tile patterns within that, and it allows you to make very complex structures very easily. So here, you can turn off the audio if you like. But those are the two professors, and this is just a little sort of light montage showing how the tiles work. So you can see the tiles have lines already on them, and then when you use a light board, you can take those off the top. So these are the 5 simple tile designs, and they can go into any number of patterns that can fit any kind of space, and you can do it at any size, scale, whatnot. And here's this simple dome structure. I did this for one of the classes, and this is me tracing it. So you can see it's a sophisticated method that was developed in the Muslim countries. Yes, those are my coloring skills. But so just to go off of that, you can see in this case the 5 shapes are sort of the Nuqtas of the Gire tile pattern. And I'll let this finish up. Yeah, and the byline as well, mixing art, math, and science. With these arts, as I noticed sort of the elaborate nature of it and just the highly technical or science of water marbling, I really saw this as a great way of connecting with kids of all ages. I mean, you know, there's a lack of STEM education in the American community at large right now, and if you can use artistic methods to connect it with kids and get them excited about math and science, I really thought this would be a great way of doing that. So that's one of the bridges that I hope to form with Nuqta Arts. The other one is to help kids connect with their ancestors, possibly if they're not, I mean, I'm a convert, so maybe my ancestors didn't do this exactly, but you can, the kids could connect back with their past. It helps, I think parents really like this as well, when they're doing art that's similar to what, you know, they see back home if they visit their home countries or where their family was from. And also strengthen their Islamic identity. When they can see that there is, I think a lot of times kids are just told that not to, you know, artwork, it's just complicated, don't do certain things in artwork, but when you're telling them all the things that they can't do instead of offering things for them to do. And that's one of the things I was hoping to do with Nuqta Arts. Yeah. And then one thing I do try and infuse within the lessons is just with Islamic art, at the purest level, it's really just to help remind people of Allah and to have art that sort of brings that to the forefront. You can see in the Quran, I mean, that's just what the center of it all is. I mean, all of this revolves around that. And these are just a couple examples of artwork that's been done through the classes. These two, I did these, and then this was a great class actually a couple weeks ago. The kids, they got to make their own little, this is called an Iwan structure. It's usually in Central Asia. But I made a plaster of Paris model, and then the kids could, you know, add clay and colors and do whatever they wanted with it. And then they took it home. It was really great. So that's some good creativity there. This was a nice class over at Dar Hijra, just with geometric design. That's another method. That's a longer method with pencil and ruler. And then, you know, this is paint your own pottery using some of the methods from these classes. That's one of the early makarnas that I tried doing. It's a different style. This is an arabesque design using radial, well, I guess not radial in this case, but just an old technique to copy designs. And this helps kids create quick arabesque designs that they can show their parents and be proud of. That's another makarna up in the high corner. Latch hook rug making, that's, you know, in a lot of Islamic countries, it's rug making, it's a big tradition. And in American culture, we also have this as well. Like my grandfather, as he got older and retired, he started doing a lot of these latch hook rugs. And it's an old tradition, really from like the 1950s and beyond. And I think it can really connect with sort of the Muslim tradition of doing rugs. And kids really, they really enjoy doing that. I was fortunate at the last ISNA conference. I had done a piece of water marbling, and Haji Nuruddin had his little booth. And I went to talk with him, and he wrote, I don't think this is exact transcription of Nuqta Arts into Arabic. I don't think you need the at the end, but it's sort of stuff that I, you know, would like to be creating down the line. Here's an example of the G'day tiles. As I said earlier, just creating sort of the method, the broad framework. In this case, I did the lines, and the kids, you know, they just colored it in however they wanted to. The pattern on the left-hand side, or your right-hand side, is a pencil and ruler method. And then these are sort of the classes I do that mix all of these elements together. You can see you do the water marbling on the outside, and then I help them do a geometric design on the inside, sort of like a medallion, and then we have a little talk on calligraphy, and I have some, you know, some pieces that they can either do their own or use some artwork that's already there. And you can see it again here at the center, except for the one at the bottom. It's you know, Allah, or remembering Allah is very much at the center of it. And one thing with this as well, a lot of times when I mention this to people, they might be like, oh, you're doing old methods. Why do you want to go back to the past? You know, why is Nuqta Arts focusing on trying to do these artistic traditions that really, their high point was back in maybe the 16th century or something like that? And it's not really about that. It's about sort of seeing the underlying, how these arts were developed, the methodology behind it, and then hopefully applying it to our modern day. And I think one really great way of doing that is with web design, because with web design you have very small components, tags, text, and these build a much larger whole. And I think if you go into web design sort of with this thought pattern, it can really infuse the Islamic ethos into that. Let me just go through if I... yeah, I think that's all I have. So thank you.